What's up, everyone? I'm on my way to pick up my son from daycare. We had a snowstorm just 2 days ago, and it's been a mild winter so far here in Minneapolis. So I haven't had to use my Fat Tire e-bike very often because we have not had a lot of snow and ice. Typically when I'm transporting my kids around or cargo, I use my cargo bike. But when it snows or when there's ice, I go with the bike trailer and a Fat Tire e-bike. And so I thought a good topic today would be why I think everyone should have a Fat Tire e-bike. The roads are still a bit of a mess, so I'm taking it slow on this ride because I'm trying not to fall. Earlier today, I did have a tumble. Luckily, when you fall in the winter, it's not so bad because you're so padded up anyway. I mean, I've got so many layers of clothing and snow pants and all sorts of stuff. So for me, what I do is when there's a good amount of snow or ice, I will switch over to the Fat Tire bike with the trailer. And the main reason is I get a little better traction with the Fat Tire bike. And if I fall, the trailer won't fall. And while I don't like pulling trailers, it is going to be safer for my kids. If I fall, they're not going to fall out of the bike either. They'll just be in the trailer and be totally fine. I like the idea of having bikes for different purposes, you know, so you'll have like a folding bike if you need to bring it somewhere, just like a regular commuter bike. And then in this case, for people in winter climates or, you know, people riding in harsher conditions, I think having a Fat Tire e-bike makes a lot of sense. And, you know, if you did want a bike that kind of covered all those aspects, you could go with something like a utility bike, something like a Rad Runner, for example, kind of hits those bases. And, you know, it has a cargo capacity, it's got fat tires, and it's electric. And you kind of cover most of your bases with that. So the first thing I would think about is price. Are you trying to spend a lot on a bike or just a normal amount? And you could go real high end and get something like a Trek or a Specialized Fat Tire bike. And a lot of those bikes are going to be more like sport Fat Tire bikes for like mountain riding and stuff. I personally don't think that you need to go high end on a Fat Tire e-bike that you're going to use like for utility purposes. And, you know, for me, when I'm thinking of spending money on bikes, I'm thinking of spending money on bikes when it's like a cargo bike, where the bikes themselves are inherently expensive and I'm looking to get, you know, good service and good parts on it. And because a cargo bike, I'm holding important stuff, specifically my kids, usually. That means I want it to be a good bike. For a lot of people, I think you can just go ahead and just get a regular Fat Tire bike. You know, you can get Fat Tire bikes for in the $1,000 to $2,000 range, which isn't bad at all. So that's kind of your first choice. Are you spending a lot on a Fat Tire bike, or are you going to spend a little bit on a Fat Tire bike? Your second thing is what brand you're going with. So looking at more of the entry-level bikes that I'm thinking of, you kind of have two choices. You can either go with kind of the big brands that you've probably seen around here that typically have more support. Brands like Aventon, Rad Power, Electric. These companies all have different Fat Tire e-bikes. I'm actually riding this one here is the Rad Rover 6, which I got on sale for about $1,400. Sometimes it goes on sale for even less, which I think is a really good deal for a bike like this. I mean, it's a, you know, 750 watt rear hub motor and hydraulic disc brakes and top speed of 20 miles per hour. It's good for what I need it to do. Your other option is to go with kind of one of these like Chinese companies, which, you know, you'll see in my reviews a lot. And, you know, those you can get pretty good deals on them too. And they often do have good parts for them. The main downside is repairs and service and what kind of service you'll get, because they don't have stores, they don't have, you know, any physical location. So these are things you'll have to think about. But those are kind of your two choices when it comes to entry-level Fat Tire e-bikes. You know, the third thing I'm thinking about with a Fat Tire e-bike is the style of frame. So is it going to be a step-over frame, like a traditional step-over frame, or is it going to be a step-through frame where you don't have to lift your leg to get onto the bike? And so there's advantages and disadvantages of both. These step-through frames are, of course, easier to get onto. The downside is they're a little harder to carry because there's no, easy lifting point. And then, the step-over frames will look more like a normal bike, and they're easier to carry, but you have to step over. And so for most people, I'm thinking in terms of mobility issues, like do you have issues lifting your leg up over or anything like that? For food delivery people, like what I do a lot, I think a step-through frame makes more sense because you want to get on and off the bike quickly, and it really does make it easier when you don't have to lift your leg over the bar. But, step-through frames, they come with their own things to think about. And I have noticed in my experience that step-through frames often seem to be a little more expensive. Just a little more. I don't know why that's the case, but I have noticed that. Like this Rad Power, for example, they have both a step-through frame and a regular, step-over frame. But the step-through frame wasn't on sale, but the regular frame was. Why that is, I don't know. Maybe this one's in less demand than the other one. For me, it doesn't matter because I can just get on and off the bike, no problem. But it can matter for you depending on your situation. So that's something to think about as well, the type of frame. And then finally, the last thing to think about when it comes to a Fat Tire e-bike is wheel size. You're basically going to have two wheel sizes typically. It's going to either be a 20x4 Fat Tire or a 26x4 Fat Tire. So the 26x4 is obviously the bigger one and will be more resilient and able to get through things more. The 20x4 one's a little smaller. The advantage I find the 20x4 tires is that when I'm riding in real bad conditions and snow and ice where I'm going to slip, it's kind of nice to be lower to the ground with the 20-inch tires because then I can put my foot down if something happens. It's a little harder to do with 26-inch tire. So often actually I prefer the 20-inch tire when I'm doing Fat Tire riding in the snow because I feel a little bit safer and just a little steadier since I'm lower to the ground. One thing about 20-inch tires is that the frames for 20-inch tire bikes are typically going to be kind of like weird ones. They're usually going to be like step-through or like a moped style bike. This Rad Rover 6 I'm riding on right now is a 26-inch tire bike though. So this one's really much more of a normal bike. But yeah, so that's kind of what I am thinking about when I am looking at Fat Tire e-bikes. If you're looking at e-bikes and trying to think about them, I would think of a Fat Tire e-bike as one that if you don't have, think about getting one, especially if you're like where I live, where you could see I'm dealing with snow, I'm dealing with ice, because it makes a big difference to have that extra traction and that extra wheel size to get over ice, get over snow. You can change the tires out in the winter too to put studded tires. I might do that actually. I might get 1 or 2 studded tires so I can switch them out every winter. So if you're looking to get around with the e-bike, definitely look at a Fat Tire e-bike. A lot of different options out there. But those 4 things I just discussed are kind of the 4 main things you'll want to think about when looking at Fat Tire e-bikes. And the thing about Fat Tire e-bikes, why they work very well for e-bikes, is because when you have the Fat Tire, it's gonna add more rolling resistance and make it a little harder to ride. But going with the e-bike, that extra rolling resistance you're getting isn't really a big deal because you can still pedal and go and throttle just as fast as any other bike. Like maybe it won't go as fast, maybe it's a little less efficient than a skinnier tire, but it's really not a big deal. And so that's why for e-bikes, fat tires make a lot of sense. But yeah, so that's kind of the things I'm thinking about when I'm looking at a Fat Tire e-bike. I'm thinking about how much do I want to spend on it, what brand I'm looking at, whether it's going to be kind of a bigger brand or a smaller brand, the style of frame, whether it's going to be a step-through or a step-over frame, and then the tire size, whether I'm going to go with the 26-inch Fat Tire or the 20-inch Fat Tire. All these different choices have their different pros and cons. A lot of it's going to be based on your personal preferences. For me, I'm riding right now on a 26-inch Rad Rover, but I actually prefer a 20-inch tire with a Step-Thru frame, mainly because it makes it a little bit easier for me to catch my balance if I do hit an icy patch and feel like I'm slipping. But, you know, most of this is just going to be based on your personal preferences and what makes the most sense for you. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful. It gives you a little bit of information on how I think about these bikes. I think I'm going to make more videos like this style, where if I'm doing something, I'm going to talk about it and just my own thoughts on this. Anyway, if you liked what you see, give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. I've got more videos like this coming, more review videos, and also have YouTube shorts where I'm showing myself doing food deliveries and all that. And until next time, I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace out, everyone. And look at this. This is sheer ice here, so gotta be real careful. I might keep my foot down too to catch my balance.